Hello, City Skylines fans. My name is Socksway Up, and welcome back to another episode of Lake Sockside. Beginning of today's episode, we're going to talk about city planning, and we're going to plan out the rest of this entire city. We're going to start thinking of it as a county. So Lake Sockside County, and this is the first city that we've developed here is Sockside. The reason we're making this kind of adjustment to the way we're doing these videos is I want there to be a purpose to every video, and the beginning of this one is going to be the purpose of what we're developing. And really, a city needs a purpose. Why is the city here? Why is this land important? We're going to get into some of that. So what we're thinking is, if this was a real city or real land that was not developed, why would we develop it? Is there a coal mine here? Is there just resources that could be gathered and an industry develops and then a town develops around it and it just naturally grows because of evolution of the town and all of those type of things? That's the mindset we're going to use moving forward on this channel. Let's get right into it. So let's take an overview here. This is a very high level of all 81 tiles, and when I started this journey, I wanted to utilize the whole map. So here you can see we have Sockside. We're going to finish this area, and then we're going to move on to the next city down here in the southwest or southeast corner. We're going to call that Short Banks. All these names could change, never know. Then we're going to move up north to this section. We're going to call it Thorntail, followed by this little narrow path here. We're going to call Bleak Valley, little valley there. And then up at the very north, we're going to have Slow Range, followed by Overbed. That leaves two areas. We may not develop there. We may. Who knows? So let's dive a little bit deeper into Sockside and talk about our plans for the next upcoming episodes and finishing out this first town. So right in here, you can see this is all the residential areas that we've started with. Those are just straight up residential. In blue, we have commercial. In yellow, we have industry. And then we have this like mixture of university, offices, and other things, followed up by the long-term plans where we're going to add some industry, commercial, and a ton more residential to finish out this city. I've noticed a lot of the times when I'm building and making these videos, it seems like I'm just randomly placing things in certain sections. I'm actually thinking about it, and I'm going to start showing that thought process. So the main thing that really jumps out initially is the separation from residential and industry. We definitely do that on purpose and surround it with commercial. And now to let the journey begin, we add a lot more roads. We're designing here a commercial area. This area is going to be pretty dense compared to some of the other areas where we're going to make them a lot more spread out buildings, but we're going to add a lot of buildings in this area. And I wanted to hug the road very close to the highway there. Once it gets populated, once it gets filled with buildings, it looks really awesome, I think. We have some underpasses as well that go under the highway to allow traffic to go back and forth so that they're not completely having to get on the freeway just to get to the other side of the town. You will notice that I don't have all of them go underneath the highway. I do connect them temporarily and then delete the connection because I don't want all of the roads to do that. But the reason why I connect them originally is to make them line up. I think it looks better. Here we're trying to be very symmetrical and kind of failed. At least I think we failed, but we tried to clean it up and fix it as best possible that I could. So I give it a couple shots here, and I'm trying to line this up but not destroy the ugly off ramp there. But we try a couple things, and then we decide just to eyeball it by measuring out some of the existing roads and then trying to recreate it on the other side. It's not one for one, but I think it did turn out pretty good for the attempt that we were making there. I wanted it to be symmetrical, but it didn't have to be perfect. And you can see once we get done here, it looks good enough. I think it's good enough for what we were going for. Close enough for the naked eye. If you measured it out, it would not be straight. But you can see here we're connecting some of these roads, and this is one of those examples of where I connected it and then deleted it just to make it straight. We transitioned into some of the more arteries or the smaller roads that we're going to add. I think I might go back in here and make some of the main roads larger. Traffic's going to be a problem soon. We're getting up to, I think it's close to 20,000 citizens finally at the end of this episode. So traffic's going to be an issue soon. We're going to probably have to do some traffic fix videos in the next few weeks, but we'll see. And here we're using some one-way roads to kind of help with that long term as it gets more full of cars or just the traffic gets more congested. The one-way road should help with that as well. And this area near the highway, I think, was okay to have the grid with the bendy road there to kind of transition. I think it turned out pretty cool, and we'll populate it next and see how it looks. Now that the infrastructure is laid down, the next natural transition is to zone the area. Again, we're not going to plop down every single building anymore in this series. We're going to let it just naturally grow like the game does. And you can see some of these areas I do fill in completely, but then I come and strip out some of the zoning to put some parking lots later on. And we're not going to completely show all of the details of putting down the parking lots. I think we featured that enough in this series. And the next section here, while we let the other one grow and populate, is another parking lot and some more commercial that we're finishing up near these residential areas. We're making a little parking lot and a little shopping center, kind of like a grocery store, has some restaurants in it. We're not going to show too much of that process, but we do want to kind of give you an idea of where we're placing down everything so that when we go into the live overview, nothing's really a surprise. You can see where things were put down and the thought process. Again, it's all matching that overview that we had. This was an area that we slated for commercial. We're going to fill that in, and then it allows us to finish some of the residential as well. Some of the things to keep in mind in here right now is our residential demand is very high, and we're kind of ruining our work balance, our worker to employee balance, and we're going to fix that by the end of the episode. So there'll be small times where they're going to be complaining about workers because we're doing things kind of out of order, but we're figuring it out. And this I left in because I had to use Node controller to fix this little section here, which I was very impressed with it. I just clicked on it and Node controller fixed it automatically, as you'll see right here. Very impressed with that tool. Very, very impressed with that tool. So we had some concrete in here to finish it up. This is an area I'll probably detail a little bit more off camera, but I wanted to just kind of clean that up and leave it there for me for later. And then we add some trees to kind of finish the area off. That's grass, but that came around pretty quick, or came together pretty quick. I really like how that looks, like a natural little grocery store area next to the residential area. And we see here we're starting to combine or connect the original industry area to this other residential area. So we're going to split some of the roads, and this is going to be kind of a unique 50-50 in here, where we have a residential area to the left here, but then to the right we're going to have some commercial, which will probably be some similar to like a shopping center where it's mostly parking and a couple buildings just to fill the space. I think it'll look really nice in the long run. We transition into one of my favorite things to do in City Skylines, that is mess with the terrain and make it our own. So what we're gonna do here is use the base of this mountain, or this mountain range here, and build a road that kind of outlines it. We're gonna have to do a lot of terraforming to get this area flat, because I want to flatten it and build a large community right here. And this is something that I've been eyeing for a long time in this area, and I'm glad we're finally getting to it. It's a unique area. I don't know if I've seen anywhere in real life, but I tend to do this a lot, where we have mountain ranges and I sneak a road right up to the edge of it and then build just a ton of houses right in front of the mountain. I think it ends up looking great. We do a lot of terraforming. We play around with the multi-tool mod, as well as move it and get everything just flattened out and perfect to start building this new residential area and grow it very rapidly and very quickly. One of the quickest areas that we've grown in this city so far, and it ends up turning out great. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think. It's a different type of neighborhood compared to the other ones that we've done in this series so far. Some of the landscaping's a little different, as you'll notice here in a few, and I think it makes for a nice transition into a new area. Maybe the other houses were more into the nature of the map or the environment, and loved it. But this is a newer town, was established later on, and they decided to go with a kind of a different look, as you see us kind of finishing up some of the terraforming and getting it all split out and finished up. I don't know if it's just me, but I kind of feel that terraforming is therapeutic, and I kind of just enjoy creating or adjusting the map's terrain to fit the city's needs, and I don't know, I just enjoy it. You can see here we had some problems with Move It. I don't know why I didn't flatten those. Those nodes were selected, but we just selected them by themselves and fixed it and finished that out, and then smoothed out the rest of the terrain and kind of tried to work on a slope. Didn't completely work out, but I love the smoothing tool. It seems to fix everything for me in the city, and we do that a little bit and then finish this last road. I believe this one we flatten out and then use the multi-tool to get the slope just right. So here you can see we're actually using a little bit of the game's districts and setting these as self-sufficient buildings. One of my favorite things to do is add neighborhoods that use the self-sufficient buildings. I think it adds a nice difference. It just changes the city up a little bit and gives it a different dynamic. And that's what I was kind of referring to earlier. I didn't want to completely give it away until we got into it. But then we get into the road layout. So we did some terraforming to do kind of preparation for the new city, and now we're adding in some of the infrastructure and the roads here to then start populating and zoning. Got to get that water added as well to make sure these citizens are happy. And there we go, we're going to start zoning this. It's going to populate very fast because the demand was so high, and you can see all those red flashing heads next to us. Those are going to go away eventually once these get populated. We haven't added much school in this area because the balance was starting to get out of whack with too much education. So we keep moving on and start doing some unique road designs here. They're not just grids, they are a lot of straight lines, but they're a little interesting in my opinion. So let me know what you think about this layout. This is one of my favorite things to do in City Skylines as well, is just lay down a ton of roads and then watch things populate in them and take a top-down view and see what it turns out. I think it turns out pretty slick. As you can see, these buildings are just flying in, and we're moving fast. We're moving a lot faster. Something that I feel like is worth mentioning is we use realistic population mod to adjust how many citizens live in each type of building. So the population isn't growing as fast as it would in vanilla City Skylines because these houses only have one house or one household in them. So only one family lives there. And because of that, we decided to add in kind of like an apartment complex of somewhat of these mid-level kind of skyscrapers here. But in my head, it's just like a fancy apartment complex, and it's the best way that I've learned to do it. And the blend, the mixture, once it's all populated, looks pretty slick. I enjoy it. Then we created a new forest brush. You can see the colors are changed. It's just green. So this self-sufficient area wasn't a huge fan of the yellow and red, so we decided to have a different brush for them to have a unique area for this residential community. All right, no background music in this section. This is important. I was going to make a video on how to fix dead bodies or too many dead bodies, and I realized that for some reason my game turned my cemeteries into residential buildings. I don't know if anyone's ran into this. It was very strange, but I noticed as I was playing, there was more and more of the skulls popping up that dead bodies weren't getting picked up. Very, very frustrated. I was planning out a whole video on to fix it, but then I was thinking, I have plenty of cemeteries. I have plenty of death care. We restarted the game and it worked. It fixed itself. I have no idea what caused it. If anybody knows, let me know. But here's a little overview of what we've gotten so far. You can see everything's starting to come together. Things are starting to blend in. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep extending this area. It's turning out great. You can see it looks different. It's more unique. It's not just a lot of the same rinse and repeat. But we keep moving forward and we keep extending this residential area out and making it larger. So more road expansion here in this area. Actually, this entire part of the video I thought about editing out, but there are some unique, more different road layouts that I do in this area. So I wanted to kind of leave it in to kind of just show that. We are connecting this entire, I don't know what to call it, section together with roads and trying to do some of them parallel and make it appealing to the eyes. And you can see some of the roads kind of match completely. That middle section there is going to be commercial. So eventually it's going to all blend into some commercial that kind of separate the highway from the residential, kind of thinking about it as getting off the road or off the highway. And you run into some commercial buildings in a lot of areas before you run into residential. One of the things I was kind of thinking about while I was developing this area was luckily, I guess luckily for me, I've grown up in the Phoenix metropolitan area. And from when I was a kid till now, it has grown a ton. And I've gotten to see some of these areas that are just huge residential areas that make no sense because there's not jobs around there. There's just maybe some commercial, but then eventually over the years, you start seeing industry and offices and other types of things fill in those areas after all the people live there. So it's almost like you had a residential boom before there was a complete need for jobs, but then commercial and restaurants and all those other things filled the area with all the other needs as well. And I guess that's where I get a lot of my city building and planning from. So that's enough expanding for the day. We're going to go into a little bit of a better live play than we normally do in these episodes, but the overview you can see here, there's been a lot of building. This area here we still need to expand on. After that, all of it's kind of touching and together. Here's a little close view of the new shopping center that we've got. Not very many people parking. I gotta figure out why these parking spaces aren't being used. It could just be a demand thing. Maybe there's a lot of roads that people are allowed to park on around it. Here's something we didn't show in the video. We expanded the university a little bit, and this is where kind of show the difference between always jamming buildings together and leaving some empty space. You can see there we added some paths, a little park, and you don't have to have a building everywhere. And I think that looks beautiful. That's sweet. So the university expanded a little bit to have a little more capacity. That's the only education we really increased in the town today. You can see this new commercial area is coming together pretty nice. Right there, there's a hospital. We're gonna have to, that'll get changed. But this new neighborhood, it looks different from this view. It looks so real to me. Also, let me know if you've noticed a difference in the quality of the video. I have a new setup and I think it looks better. At least it looks better on my end. We'll see how it looks on YouTube. New neighborhood's looking gorgeous. I think it turned out sweet. And you can see down in the distance there, there's the little high-rise buildings that kind of make a little difference. Yeah, looks cool. But then on the edge of the mountain, we still have the yellow and red trees to kind of give the whole Sockside feel to it. Lots of expanding. I'm excited to where this is going to go in the next few weeks. You can see the old neighborhoods here where they have, they embraced the colors of the town a little bit more than this new neighborhood. It's a little more flat, a little more condensed. Looks pretty sweet. I love the way it's turning out. Let me know what you think about this video. I'm excited to plan out the rest of the city and get this into ultra speed, really. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for joining.